guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Object 155. This is a Tier 3 main battle tank that you got for being in the beta or the alpha, or logging in for a certain day during the alpha beta stage of Armored Warfare. So, primarily, what I'll be comparing this tank to is the T62 Veteran and the Type 59, because they're similar, but different in their own different ways. So the Object 155 in appearance looks almost identical to the Type 59, but in practice of the way it's been balanced in the stats, it's actually a bit different. The tank is able to output more damage quicker because its heat rounds and its AP rounds end up doing actually a fair bit more, about 40 damage more than what you get out of the Type 59, and it shoots a little bit faster, at least the way I've got it set up. So it has the advantage against the Type there, but when it goes up against the T62 Vet, I mean, this tank, the heat rounds on it are 370, which is a good, I think, 40 or 50 more than the Object 155, and the Type 59 down here, lowly heat rounds, only doing 278. So, back to the 155. The hit points are also another weak spot. It is only rolling in with like less than 1,000 hit points, 990. The Vet's got 1,060. The Type 59's got 1,246. Making it the Christmas special of the week. It's also slower than the Type because the Object will only do about 48, and in practice I found it likes to do more, about 40 or 50. I found the Type is actually a fair bit better to accelerate, and the top speed is typically higher, better, more or less all the time. Although it does say that the acceleration is the same, I don't know, there's just something about it, maybe in terrain resistance, but the Vet is actually faster to accelerate than the Object as well. Next, the view range. The view range is crappy. It's only 360. The Vet actually has 400, and the Type 59 is also at 360. The gun depression for all these tanks all around is -6, which is pretty crap. So you'll want to keep the thing hull down if you can. But again, the Object 155 is inferior to both the Type 62 Vet and the Type 59 in the turret department, because as you can see over here on the armor, where is it? Well, we could do that. See that it only has 205 as far as the turret goes. But if you look at the T62, you've got 242. Look at the Type 59, it's got 240. The hull is also sitting at 135, but the hull on the T62 is only 102. But when you mouse over the Object 155, the hull says 120. So it's better than the T62, but it's worse than the Type 59. So the hull, I found in practice that at least like shooting AP rounds back and forth at each other, I'm able to pen through the upper plate and the lower plate with the Object 155. It's able to withstand autocannon fire and stuff, but if you're getting any tank that has anything over like 220, 230 pen, you're able to shoot right through the upper and lower plate on the tank unless you're getting angles like that. So I haven't found that the Object 155's armor is good for anything other than getting shot up by like bulldogs and stuff in PvE. It's not very strong frontally, at least with its armor on its chassis and its hull. The turret is also not as strong, so it's only got 205. It's about 40 less than everything else, so you're more likely to get penetrated through either the cheeks or the hatches on top, simply because it's just not as thick. But it does have a cool infrared light, if that matters for anything, which it probably doesn't. The side armor I have found to be fairly weak as well. You want to keep armor to the front if you can, but that's really only going to be useful against really, really light tanks or autocannon vehicles. So the armor on the 155 really isn't that strong. I have found in practice that the Type 59's armor is the best all around. The T62 Vet's got much less. It's got a very different turret, but you can see the turret is wider, fatter, it's lower, and the hatches are a lot more smaller in profile and stuff. So comparing the three, the object's turret is also higher and a bit bigger and more bulbous looking. But I think it's prettier looking than the T62, so I like it better. The next thing that you'll notice is that it doesn't carry HE rounds, HEP rounds, or any other alternative rounds. You get AP rounds, and you've got heat rounds. But with the T62, you get an assortment of different rounds, including HE, and same with the Type 59. You get HE rounds, but you do not on the 155. Another thing you don't get is an extra retrofit slot. And on both these other tanks, you get two, but on the poor 155, you only get one, which kind of sucks. So, you probably think that Object 155 is crap, just by going off what it's compared to. It's definitely not as good. The accuracy spread is 0.15, which is a fair clip worse than what you get on the T62, as well as you can see it's got 0.11 on the Type 59 and 0.09 on the T62. So the accuracy is worse. The reload time is actually the best. The targeting time is also the best, but not by a heck of a lot. It's just like a smidgen better. So from my experience, the 155 isn't bad, but the Type 59 and the T62 are just generally better than it in almost every single conceivable way. But that doesn't mean it can't do good things, and it will generate the same credit multiplier as the Type 59. But the T62 is really a real tank. It's not a premium tank. It's just a normal tank with a cool camo pattern. So it's not compared as a premium vehicle, but since premium vehicles aren't hindered and made worse than their normal counterparts, which I like, it's worth driving out and getting a little bit of a bonus every once in a while in the Object 155. I almost have my crew to level 4. Right now they're just sitting at level 3, but they will get there eventually. But we'll hop into some gameplay, and you can see what the Object 155 is like when it's out and shooting at some AI vehicles. And here we go. This is a PvE map that I don't really mind. One of the places where I do like to go is pretty much straight down the 2 line in the middle of the field on the roadway, because it gives me access to shooting at the secondary objectives, as well as where the tanks like to spawn out of like F0 and J0, and sometimes they spawn behind you, sometimes they spawn off to the right of me right now. They like to spawn out of multiple different areas, so there's about 5 or 6 different places they come out of, so you got to keep in mind where they're coming from. But just in general, you can see the tank, it's not super fast, it's able to climb, it doesn't do it with any great zeal, it just is kind of slow doing just about everything. One of the things you'll notice is the turret speed is quite slow. Compared to the T62A, the turret is like, I think it's like 23 or 22 as far as traverse goes, and same with the Type, it's not very quick either, but the turret is kind of slow. I find that when I play it, I need to rotate the hull to get it to go where I want to go, just because I need to get it aiming quicker, sooner rather than later. So here we go. And when you're playing at this tier, I find that I do carry almost as many heat rounds as I do AP rounds, because the heat rounds can go through just about everything. So turn around, blast that guy, and for whatever reason, these guys haven't really killed this guy. I don't know how or why, but they chose not to, so I decided to kill him as well. Against tanks like the Scorpion, the heat rounds have no problem going through. You can see it also gives me the dead tank to my front. It also gives me a little bit of cover if I need it against anything that'd be shooting at me. But since this is on just medium difficulty, I kind of wish you could play tier 3s at hard and hardcore. I think it would be a lot more fun and interesting. But for right now, it's just on medium. And I've got really great shots at shooting at all these guys that are driving in from this roadway in the back. And you can see the 0.15 accuracy. As far as numbers go, that's not great. But I didn't really find that I missed a whole lot of shots. I mean, these guys were really not that far away. Like maybe 400 meters, 300 meters. So it wasn't really that bad. But if you're going to do like hardcore sniping with the vehicle, you're probably playing it wrong. It doesn't really have the largest amount of hit points, and the armor's not that great. So it's not your great all-around kind of brawler bruiser sort of tank. It just because of the way it's set up and the deficiencies that it has, it's kind of better as a secondary damage dealing tank. But in certain games, you're the only real main battle tank sometimes, and you got to do what a main battle tank is supposed to do, even though it doesn't really maybe have the ability to do it quite as well as other tier 3 main battle tanks. The armor is kind of on par with the... You can't sit in front of an autocannon with a leopard tank, but you can with this, so that's nice, but I found that my survivability is a lot higher when I drive my Type or the T62 Vet. You can see that the engine power is okay. I'm able to climb hills and move around to a certain degree. See, I'm again moving the hull to get the gun over. It's just not the... It feels kind of lethargic because the turret is so bloody slow. So being up here gives me a chance to use these bushes as cover and shoot through them. And you can see I'm not... Well, I did get spotted. I'm not entirely sure how, but the bush mechanics maybe aren't exactly the same as World of Tanks when it comes to shooting through opaque bushes. And shooting down onto these guys is great because it means all their armor is usually flattened out. You can shoot through anywhere on a Bulldog and it's going to go through anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. But I've kind of pounded through a lot of my heat rounds now. I've only got a few left. And for whatever reason, there was guys to my back that weren't, or there was my teammates were to my back and to my left, and they didn't really engage until like now they started moving over. So I kind of didn't think they really knew what was going on. But you can see that the tank can output damage fairly quick, just because the reload is pretty fast. But I was getting to the point right there where I could see how many kills I had, and I was starting to feel a little bit guilty, like I was whoring all the kills for myself. So I decided to just drive up and start spotting for everybody and try and just sit here. And you can see the tank's taking damage. Like the Bulldog can pan this tank because I was giving him my size. I'm just going to back up. And the tank's able to shoot on the move, but it doesn't really have a stabilizer. It's better at shooting on the move at things that are pretty damn close. Shoot and take him out. And I even held my shot for a little while just to see if anyone else wanted to kill him, but after a while I just kind of was like, I don't care. We're just going to get through this as fast as possible and move on to the next mission. I definitely think that there needs to be a harder mode for these tier 3 tanks. I mean, if you don't want to play it on hard, you don't have to, but I think there definitely needs to be a higher difficulty curve when it comes to playing this mode. Because for me, it's just kind of a mode where I get to turn my mind off and kind of just test out tanks and see what they're good at and upgrading them without really having to care about all the other problems that happen to be with the game. But eventually they're going to sort them out. Eventually it will get done. It's just going to take time because they're not a massive developer with tons of incoming money, and the game hasn't been out for 5 years. So I see a lot of people getting a bit testy with like them not fixing bugs right away, and it's just the way it is. So I'm hoping that people will still stick with the game, even though it does have its problems, but I think that they will get sorted out. You can see driving through the town, the tank is not the most mobile. I'm only doing about 30. If I get in a long straight line, I can probably end up getting to like 35, maybe 40. But it's definitely not a real huge strength. I mean, downhill it'll do okay, but definitely not the strong suit. I do like that the reload is fairly quick. It also reverses not too badly either. You can see in the front of the tank it's been peppered by autocannon spray. So it's nice that it can sit in front of the autocannon tanks without getting fleeced. That was one of the huge problems I found with the OF40, which is a tier 4 tank that succeeds the Leopard. Because the Leopard can't sit in front of anything that's got an autocannon because it'll just get wrecked. So right now I'm just sitting, I don't know where the enemy is going to come from, but they decided to spawn one over there off map. and he just dropped down behind the edge there. So he managed to get a shot into me without me seeing him, which was not very fun. But I was doing still pretty good on hit points. So I just roll around the corner. See there, I gave too much to the side of the vehicle, so I straighten her out. And I wasn't. You don't really need to take too much care when you're playing against AI tanks because they will just shoot at your hull. But in this tank, the armor isn't strong enough a lot of the time for it to be able to actually handle that. So you gotta to keep that in mind because you can die, especially when there's like a large volume of tanks. And if your teammates are really bad and you get surrounded, or you put yourself in a position where you're getting hit a lot just from bad positioning, you can die. It just doesn't happen super often. You can see the shot, like I'm not missing too many of the shots. Like it seems to be pretty accurate. The gun elevation for the cannon isn't too bad either. It doesn't have too many problems with getting it up, as they would say. But the gun depression isn't definitely not one of the assets of the vehicle. Again, tank to the left. Gonna stop, put a shot into him, and then I'm gonna start backing up. And I'm gonna bounce something in a second. Bink. Nope, that wasn't a bounce. I did bounce something from this guy, though. The first one did not bounce. Put some shot into me there. I'm just going to keep backing up. Hit him again. You just kind of get into a rhythm. This whole mode is basically just like a fun target practice mode to be able to grind and play with friends, and it's not really challenging and in any aspect, but you can get an idea what the Object 155 is like. It is basically a Type 59 that shoots a little bit quicker, does a little bit more damage, but in almost every other way is inferior. Plus, it doesn't have cool camouflage. The most you can do is chuck decals on it. So that was a really easy game. My teammates weren't especially good, so it allowed me to rack up like 20 kills and somewhere around 9 to 10,000 or something damage. So that part of the game was really nice. It was really easy, and it's kind of just a mode that you can just get into and not really have to worry about whether your teammates are good or bad. I mean, if you're on hard with like tier 6 main battle tanks and all your friends die on certain small maps, like you can get screwed pretty easily and die, but it usually comes down to more your team composition of what vehicles you have. Like if you've got all main battle tanks or if you've got all light tanks or armored fighting vehicles, that's where you start running into problems if all your teammates die right away. But if your mates stay alive and you've got a decent mix, like it's pretty hard to die in PvE. But you can see here, ended up dumping out like 9100 damage. And a tier 3, that's pretty okay. And knocked out 20 kills. Got a lot of spots. I put myself in position to see a lot of the tanks and shoot through a lot of the avenues where I know the tanks will be coming from. And it generates pretty good credits. Like you can see that it ended up knocking out a decent amount there. But yeah, the Object 155 is a good little vehicle. Not as good as the Type 59, but it's not bad. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you again next time.